The 1983 season for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers was a long uphill struggle that ended on a snowy day in Pontiac, Michigan. In a game that fully symbolized the futility and frustration of 1983, the Bucs out-hit, out-muscled, and outgained the newly crowned kings of the NFC Central Division.
To the pass, sets up, can't find anybody, now fires a pass, got a man open, House, 10-5, House, saves, touchdown!
But in the end, as it had been all season, battles were won, but a war lost. It had been almost a year to the day since the Bucs had capped off one of the greatest regular season stretch drives in league history. With a melodramatic flair that has become this team's trademark, Tampa Bay came from behind in each of their last 3 games to soar into the playoffs. 1983, though, saw the tables of fortune turned cruelly against a battered Buc team. On 9 occasions, the Bucs went down to defeat by 7 points or less. 3 times they lost in overtime, and only the opposition performed last-minute miracles in Tampa. After their rapid rise to the top of the NFC Central, the swift descent to the bottom was a painful path for the Bucs to take. But while the thought of last place is never easy to bear, the notion of regaining first can be impossibly hard to ponder. Except in Tampa Bay. For the season that was and the season that will be, this is a tale of a team and a town whose belief that rising from worst to first in 1 year is a matter of keeping the faith. While the 1983 Tampa Bay Bucs were a team that never surrendered, they were a besieged unit that sent out many signals of distress. On a field that often resembled a MASH compound, 29 players at one time or another went down to injury. Not even a Hawkeye was needed to envision the disastrous results that followed. The loss of a secondary that saw every starter fall. A running game that lost its leader and most potent weapon in James Wilder. And an offensive line where 14 distinct starting combinations were scrambled together over 16 weeks. With their protective barrier badly weakened, Tampa Bay was a tattered team on the verge of a sudden fall. One division rival after another swooped in and plundered the wounded Bucs, as losses to Detroit, Chicago, Minnesota, and Green Bay in the first 5 weeks left them staggered and stunned. The Buccaneers were able to pull themselves up and play competitively for most of the year. But for the starters who stood idly and for the followers who sat, it was an early and disappointing end to a season they thought would be long and memorable.
We had some boos, which you would expect, but it was because I think they were doubly frustrated or disappointed. The Super Bowl, and they were hoping the Bucs would be in it, and that would have been really the ultimate. And since we didn't have a successful season, they were doubly disappointed. I have great faith in our fans. When I go back to the second year that we played here. We hadn't won a game at home. We had just won one game, and that was a week before our final game. And in our final game here, we were playing St. Louis, and we had not scored a touchdown all season at home. And yet 68,500 fans came out to see us. We won the game. They tore the goalpost out.
Faith. It is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. From the very beginning, it was the bond between the Bucs and Tampa Bay. 2 years of patient building through the draft had rewarded an equally patient Tampa Bay faithful with a young team that was no longer looking back to losses, but only to victories that lay ahead. Tampa Bay fans, though, had their own seemingly impossible ideas of what was in store for the Bucs. When 1979 dawned, those dreams were ready to ripen into reality. And NFL history was about to be made. Under the watchful eye of head coach John McKay, the Buccaneer defense developed into one of the league's most feared units. An offense with a penchant for churning out big plays improved with each passing week. By mid-season, only those who truly believed it from the start knew where the Buccaneers were headed. Tampa Bay's title dreams came down to the season's wet, waning moments. But this team was not about to let destiny slip away as fast as the sun did on this fateful day.
The rain has let up a great deal. 19-yard field goal attempt. Neil O'Donoghue awaiting the snap from Steve Wilson. It is a low snap. The kick is up. Good! The Buccaneers are the NFC Central Division champions, and we are popping the champagne. The Buccaneers are Central Division champions. They go to the playoffs.
Now's the time. Now. Score! Score!
The Buccaneers' 24-17 playoff victory over the Eagles brought on songs of celebration and choruses of joy from a town that never before experienced the thrill of being part of a winning Major League franchise. But this was no one-night dance stand to the tune of a Cinderella serenade. In 1981, Tampa Bay again earned an invitation to the NFL's playoff ball. This time, it was a dramatic final game showdown with Detroit that secured a second division crown.
Third down and 10 from the 32. Hipple back to pass. Deep drop, Leroy Selman after him. Leroy's got him. The ball's up in the air. It's a fumble. David Logan will take it in, and it's a touchdown.
From worst to first. In some towns, it is a faint slogan of hope. In Tampa Bay, it is a faithful reminder of what this franchise has done before and what it can accomplish again. The road to the top is rarely reached by a straight course, but those who get there often do so by showing patience, not panic in the face of adversity.
Well, if you look in the league, the teams that have been successful, they've stayed in that same type of course. Tom Landry, it was 7 years before they had a winning season. Look at Minnesota. They've had the same organization, same coaches. If I thought it had been the coach's fault, then I would have made a change. But certainly when you have 18 of your 22 starters out on injured reserve, You don't change the coaches because of injuries.
Staying the course in Tampa begins and ends with head coach John McKay, the lone architect of this NFL expansion success story.
He's a great student of the game, and he's highly intelligent, and he's very dedicated. Now, I think they did one of the best coaching jobs they've ever done this past year, because with the injuries and with the defeats to get the team up, we didn't have but really one game that the team wasn't up to play in.
A fifth-week lopsided loss to Green Bay pushed a weary Tampa Bay team to the edge. 7 days later, the Buccaneers showed how simple old-fashioned pride can breathe life into an ailing season. Dallas, the campaign's most bitterly fought game, ended in another heartbreaking overtime defeat. But as Tony Dorsett and the Cowboys discovered, while the Bucs may have been down, it was their opponents who were often knocked out. In 1983, rushes found no safe paths through the Buc defense. Only 3 escaped with over 100 yards. Linebackers like number 52 Scott Brantley and number 58 Jeff Davis and new arrivals Ed Judy, Robert Thompson, and Danny Spradlin, combined with linemen John Cannon, Booker Reese, David Logan, and that legendary sage of sackers, Leroy Selman, number 63, to seal off scoring routes while producing turnover touchdowns themselves.
Bills to set up the pass. Selman bats the ball down. It's a loose football. Picked up by David Logan to the 40, Logan to the 30, Logan to the 20, and he will take it in. Touchdown for the Buccaneers.
An experienced secondary, manned by hard-hitting veterans like John Hope and Mark Cotney, was seasoned further by the arrival of number 43, Beasley Reese, a waiver claim who backed up the Bucs' belief in him by finishing second in the NFC with 8 interceptions. Rookie Jeremiah Castile, number 23, was the youngest addition to a defensive backfield that surrendered just 15 aerial scores. Despite some trying times, Tampa Bay's defense remained a strength, and no man better personified its physical intensity than third-year All-Pro outside linebacker number 53, Hugh Green.
He's very motivated to be an excellent player. Some guys really aren't. People don't realize it. There is different motivation in football players. They don't all have the same. He is very motivated to be very well. He has the ability that great boxers have at times. He can really strike you. When he hits you, he explodes. Some people hit you, and that's nothing happens.
When Hugh Green is around the football, something always happens, and somebody always pays dearly for it. Inspiration is what teammates derive from number 53, as he proved against St. Louis when he hobbled onto the field late in the game and limped into the end zone with an interception that ignited a furious comeback. Few men lead by example like Hugh Green. 1983, though, saw the emergence of an offensive player cut from the very same mold. In James Wilder, Buck fans knew they had an outstanding all-purpose running back. But when injuries took their toll, Wilder responded with a rush of heroics that literally pounded out a victory over the Vikings.
Hands off left side to Wilder. Wilder gets to the outside to the 30, to the 35, to the 40, off to the races.
Wilder's 219 rushing yards represents the NFL's highest single game total since 1977.
Touchdown, Buccaneers! 75-yard run by James Wilder. How about that?
In the lightning flash of 4 weeks, Wilder thundered to single-game Tampa Bay marks for carries, yards, and longest run from scrimmage. Over the full course of a healthy season, this bruising back might very well double his 1,020 combined yards of 1983. Simply being handed the football has pointed James Wilder toward the path of stardom. For number 89, Kevin House, simply dropping a football proved to be a turning point in a season and possibly a career. If there is one Buccaneer who sums up what keeping the faith is all about, it is this talented receiver, whose hands may have strayed, but whose heart stayed true.
Somehow he got caught up in our offense to start the season, and I think it was my fault, much as anybody. We weren't throwing the ball to him. And then he started, when we did, he was dropping a few, and then he dropped the big one in Pittsburgh, but it wasn't a game for us. And from that time on, he became the other Kevin House.
Thompson fires out long, got House out there, and got it! Touchdown! What a great catch! Oh, my!
With a steadfast surge of heroics that put his early season slump behind him, Kevin House was back home again among the most feared pass catchers in the league. By December's twilight, shadows of doubt that haunted this house had disappeared. For Tampa Bay's quarterback Jack Thompson, shadows of uncertainty that had long haunted him were ultimately blotted out by the rays of the Florida sun.
Jack had 4 different coaches in college, 4 head coaches in 4 years. He comes to Cincinnati. I think he had Bill Johnson, Homer Rice, and then Forrest Gregg. So he had 7 coaches in his period of 8 years. Different systems each time out. Comes here, and here's a different system again. This took some time because you have to figure out exactly what does this mean and be able to audibilize and do the things that he has to do. I thought he was a little bit not sure of where the receivers were early. I think as the season progressed, Jack progressed farther than any other player we had on our team. And I think he's going to be a very fine quarterback.
As Jack Thompson gained in experience and grew in self-confidence, a healthier, revamped offensive line, fortified by young players like Sean Farrell, Gene Sanders, Ray Snell, and promising rookies Kelly Thomas and Randy Grimes, gave number 14 the time he needed to spot sure-fingered receivers like Jimmy Giles, Gerald Carter, number 87, and the reliable veteran Theo Bell, number 83. This throwing Samoan's burning belief in his ability to play glowed brightest in the season's second half as he seared through tough secondaries at San Francisco and Detroit for 337 and 373 yards, while closing out the year with 11 touchdown passes in his final 4 games. In 1983, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers stood tall and proud despite an avalanche of adversity that could have crushed lesser men. Often it seems it is only out of the depths of misfortune that a man's true character rises to the surface. In Tampa Bay, it's the courage of Michael Morton, who never let his diminutive size keep him from leaping into the elite of NFL kick returns. And it's the heart of Jerry Bell, a young player who stumbled in his early starts at tight end, but always came up standing. And it's the stature of Frank Garcia, who shook off the rejection of 5 teams to lead the NFC in punting in his first full season. It was the spirit of a team that, despite discouraging losses, still believed they would win every Sunday. A team that met playoff contenders head on and matched them stride for stride, effort for effort, right down to the season's final seconds.
I'm very proud. I saw the development of character and the willingness of the players to improve and keep fighting. And I saw the young players develop, which was so great. Now we have some depth.
I'd say it'd have to be a miracle for us not to have a good football team and a solid football team.
I'd say keep the faith, baby.
In the coming season, a healthier, more mature Buccaneers will reap the rewards of their resolution. With a combination of youthful zest that has shown the promise and an old guard that has been there so many times before, the Buccaneers will come back stronger than ever. So dry your eyes, Tampa Bay fans. Shed no tears for the season past. Keep the faith, Buck followers, and don't think of the quest of worst to first as some wild-eyed, crazy sort of saga that can only be culled from the minds of youthful imagination. In 1984, it will be the rallying cry for the Buccaneers, and it will echo loudly through the land. Because in Tampa Bay, we have done it before. We can do it again.